Dubey sir, please introduce Prasad sir. Dubey sir, please introduce Prasad sir.
Can you listen to me now?
Yeah, everybody is listening. No problem.
Good morning, friends. It's a pleasure to be back this Sunday again. And I'm very happy to announce that Prasad sir, Mr. M V R Prasad, has kindly agreed to be with us today, and he would be talking to us on the theme, My Understanding of J. Krishnamurti. Most of us know Prasad sir as a regular participant in the Indore Circle talks, but to give a little detail about his background, I'll briefly introduce him. Mr. M V R Prasad obtained his PhD in English literature from Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati in 1965. The subject was the religious drama of the early 17th century, that is, the Jacobean period. Mr. Prasad started off as an English lecturer in Sri Venkateswara College, New Delhi, one of the constituent colleges of Delhi University. Later, Mr. Prasad got into the Indian Revenue Service in 1966. He served in the Income Tax Department in various capacities at different places like Delhi, Bombay, Nagpur, Guntur, Cochin, and Hyderabad. He retired as a member of the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal from Hyderabad in 2003. He is now settled in Vijayawada. Mr. Prasad started reading Krishji in 1981. He heard Krishji between 1981 and 1986 at Chennai, Mumbai, and Rajghat. Mr. Prasad has published a small collection of poems titled A Script of the Fire. This was published in 1981, and also a small book on K titled J. Krishnamurti. Mr. Prasad says, like all of us, I have been struggling to see myself in the mirror of J. Krishnamurti. With this brief introduction, I want to thank Prasad sir for accepting our invitation and being with us today to deliver a talk before the Indore Study Circle. And I want to extend a very warm welcome to him for being with us today. Sir, you can take as long as you want, maybe an hour or so, and then we'll leave the last 20, 25, 30 minutes for question answers. So yes, Prasad sir, please unmute yourself and you can begin now.
My namaskar for all the people, sir. And firstly, I would like to thank Kamlesh ji for the trouble he has taken to prepare these slides. And of course, Sushil Kumar ji is responsible for my being here. He left me no option. He was quite mandatory, as possibly is his habit. So, anyways, this is a very vast subject. I deliberately selected like that because to go into depth in any particular aspect of Krishnaji is more difficult than to cover him generally. I hope I am audible, sir.
Yes, you are.
Yes. So, the contribution of Krishnaji is summarized in our slide number 1. Kamlesh ji, please show slide 1.
Slide number 1.
I hope others are able to see fully.
Yes, yes.
For me, the edges are gone. Doesn't matter because I have my original with me. Krishnamurti has brought truth from its high heavens to the rough and tumble of daily life, from the stone walls of temples to the faces of fellow human beings, from rituals and taboos to flowers and the flowing waters, from the pages of dust-laden scriptures to the living drives in the consciousness of man, from the authority of a system to the freedom of one's own search, from maudlin devotion to choiceless observation, from the rigors of control to the joys of discovery, and from the fallacy of progress in future to the timeless, ever-renewing present. This, I thought, in a way, summarizes his differences from the tradition and his original contribution. I think it is quite clear and doesn't require any further explanation. Sir, in 83 or so, I happened to meet Dr. Padma Madholkar, one of the admirers of Krishnaji, a very nice lady. And she was a doctor. She stopped practice by the time I came to know her. But she said, I am making an exception in your case and I am giving you a prescription because I was suffering from something when I was attending Krishnaji's talks. I am bringing her in because to my mind, she excellently summarized the contribution of Krishnaji. There is a video in her name on YouTube. There she says, she contrasted Krishnaji with Buddha. And she said, Buddha brought rationality into spirituality. Whereas Krishnaji showed the limits of rationality. Because his attempt is, because he has always said, thought is limited, thought is past. And so we should not give too much importance to thought. Of course, we all know, not that thought is to be totally denigrated. Thought has a value, thought has a place, a position, a very valuable position in technology, in science, etc. But in the psychological realm, it has no particular significance. And this is what, so there is something over and above thought, which if one can touch, that is a blessing. This is what I think Dr. Padma was trying to convey. So now I would like to show you the approach of Krishnaji, general approach. He was asked once, you are an Andhra, you are a Telugu man, why don't you spend your time here with us? And why do you spend very little time with us? For that, that is over. Yes, this is it. You are an Indian and an Andhra, born here in Madanapalli. We are proud of you and your good work in the world. Why don't you spend more time in your native country instead of living in America? You are needed here. For that, his reply is something wonderful. You know, a peculiar process that is going on in the world is this identification of oneself with a particular piece of land or with a so-called religion. Does it matter very much where you were born or what language you speak or what particular culture you are raised in? Look at what is happening in this country. We're breaking up into parts, ourselves, Tamils, Telugus, Maharashtrians, and all the rest of it. This breaking up process is maintained in Europe too, with the Germans, the English, the French, and so on. When a man worships and identifies himself with the particular, there is something I'm not able to see that.
It's not very clear. I think
His structure becomes much greater.
Sir, you can see now.
it's little better, but it's not very clear. It is still quite hazy.
His struggles, the word is struggles. His struggles become much greater. His misery increases. As long as I remain in Andhra, belonging to a particular class and a particular religion, my mind is very petty, small, narrow. It is surely the function of the mind to break through all these limitations and find the whole. But the whole is not made up of parts. By putting many parts together, the whole is not to be found. It is only by not being entangled in the part that there is a possibility of seeing the whole immediately. So, our minds are all closed generally. So, tradition, culture, our education, our specialization, all these things are narrowing our mind. And identification with a particular ideology, with a particular political party, with a region, with a language, all these things are adding to ourselves. So here he says, by putting many parts together, the whole is not to be found. The whole cannot be found by simply putting parts together. So to have that freedom of the mind, somewhere he also says, freedom is not freedom from something. Freedom is freedom per se. Freedom in itself, not freedom from anything. So this is his general approach. Search for wholeness and freedom from narrow frontiers. That is the approach of Krishnaji. Then, sir, I think he was very concerned about the fate of India. 3, 4, 5, sir. Kamlesh ji. Yes. So we can see that He says, are you accepting responsibility for the country? This is his concern about India. Are you accepting responsibility? Are you accepting the responsibility for yourself to see that you behave properly? Or again, that is just a talk. Sir, do you know what is happening to this country? Do you all realize? The speaker has been coming to this country every winter for the last 60 years. You have advanced technologically. You are as clever as inventive as anybody else. And you as a human being are slowly dying. The culture that this country has had gone, finished, torn apart. Right? Everyone is living for himself. He is not concerned about his son's future, his grandson's future. You are not concerned for your neighbor. You follow? You are not concerned at all about another except about yourself. The country is breaking up. Tamil Nadu, Telugu Nadu, or whatever Nadus you have. This country is breaking up. The family is breaking up. And there is no new flame. You are just repeating. When you repeat, there is certain dead security, and you are in that state now. What are we going to do? What are you all going to do, sirs? Sir, here, what is to be noticed is repetition. Tradition is simply repetition. We repeat slokas from Gita, from Upanishads, etc. Big words, big slogans are used, but they mean nothing. They don't really have any impact on your personality. They won't change your behavior. You are just into your tradition. Your father did it and you are doing it. I think that is what Krishnaji is concerned about. We are that originality or creativeness are missing totally. There is a great amount of search for the spiritual. The spiritual quest is so much there. But Krishnaji says, in between has come the priest. Between the individual and the immeasurable, or whatever you call it, there is the priest entering. And he entangles you in the tradition. And you think you're attempting very hard and all that. You congratulate yourself. But you're only like a gramophone record, old gramophone record. It just plays the same tune over and over again. And this happens not simply in our country, everywhere it is the same story. And that is why millions go to temples and hardly a handful come to Krishnaji's meetings. Maybe in thousands, that's a different matter, but compared to the number who go to temples, this is not much. So the problem is just repetition. And you are not concerned about anybody else. That is also what he has said. The culture of this country is gone when possibly there was something better. But now you are not concerned about anybody except yourself. And we are dividing the country into various nodules. We are seeing it daily, sir. Newspapers attest to this position. We don't have to. Then next, he continued. Education, you know what it is in this country. It is the lowest. Professors who have been from abroad, teachers from abroad have told me, they come here to investigate and they say there is no education at all, just bookwork, learning, memorizing, you understand. So education is at its lowest ebb. There is violence hidden. It may be, there is violence hidden. It may explode at any time. There is all the preparation for war. So the country is facing a tremendous crisis. Your country, the land in which you are living, and you don't seem to care. And you build temples, go to the temples, take vows, you follow. Professionally, you are a lawyer or an engineer and go to a temple with all the superstitions, you follow. The contradiction. For God's sake, realize what is happening. So we are engineers and scientists, but at the same time, we don't come out of our tradition. And a Muslim scientist doesn't come out of his tradition. A Christian scientist doesn't come out of his tradition. So all of us, everywhere, are caught in the world, in the ancient, in the tradition. And on that basis, we fight. We say, we exhibit a lot of tolerance also. We say all paths lead to the same thing. All paths lead to the supreme, let us say. But Krishnaji says there is no path to truth. So the statement all paths lead to truth, while it apparently seems to indicate a great amount of tolerance, it is misleading. There is no path to truth, let alone all paths being leading to truth. So we simply construct temples and we are not concerned about anybody else. That is the factual reality. Sir, Aldous Huxley has in his introduction to First and Last Freedom, has said, man lives by symbols. There are various disciplines and each discipline has its own symbols. Like music has some symbols, mathematics has some symbols, religion has some symbols. But he said, while the symbols of science have led to progress, great amount of progress, the symbols of religion have created a lot of schisms and divisions and conflicts. And he has also said, K has negated so many things. He has negated faith, belief, self-discipline, prayer, yoga, knowledge, introspection, analysis, all these things are negated. They have no value. Introspection, who is the person doing that introspection? Analysis, who is the person doing the analysis? So, faith and belief, they are just beliefs. They have no validity. So, now what if all these things are negated, what are we left with? We are left with 9, sir. Kamlesh 9, small thing.
One minute, sir.
We are left with only
Is it okay, sir?
yes. We are left with only observation. Observation of oneself. Observation of the outer, observation of the inner. So, I think there is an American poet. He has a small thing. The thing itself and not the ideas about the thing. So we have, when we observe something, we have a lot of ideas. When we see a flower, we get so many ideas. It is a particular flower when it blossoms and all sorts of things. So, Krishnaji, to my mind, is that he is for the thing itself. Whatever it is, don't make your mind overactive with ideas. The problem with all of us is our brains are overactive, constantly chattering. So, can we be with the thing itself and not weave a web of ideas around the thing? So, as when all our usual methods are negated, what is left with is only observation. And he calls it, of course, choiceless awareness, choiceless observation. And the only way to get out of ourselves is observation. Observation of the thing. Because ideals are escapes. When you are pursuing an ideal, you are escaping from the reality. Like Krishnaji has talked many times about violence and non-violence. He said non-violence is the idea of non-violence is very prevalent in India, but it has little meaning because it is just an escape. As you are trying to reach non-violence, you are living in violence. And another thing is, Krishnaji doesn't believe in gradual progress. He says transformation is not a time process. Transformation is, it doesn't, when you say, I need time to transform myself, it is a lazy brain, he says. Only a lazy brain takes shelter behind that idea of gradual progress. So one useful hint he gives is, don't escape any thought to escape without being observed. Throughout the day, meditation is not for an hour or two. is a part of your life. You observe yourself throughout the day. Not that it is a continuous process. He has said that also. It is not that you keep on doing it as a matter of discipline. But the idea is that all you observe all your thoughts. There is nothing mandatory about it. It is not like a cast iron discipline, you don't allow any thought to go without being observed. It is not like that. But it is not confined to a specific time or a specific posture or anything like that. So ultimately, what is he trying to drive at? For me, he has observed the state of the world. He has understood it. He thinks that we are in a mess. The world is in a mess. Somewhere he says we are spending 400 billions on armaments. And we have to, his aim is to transform man. The root of the problem is the self. The way he has defined self is something new. In our tradition, self is something great. Whereas for Krishnaji, self is simply the contents of your consciousness. And his aim is to transform man, to see that there is a change in the very brain cells of the man, so that there is a little less selfishness on his part, and he can live, he can enjoy the beauty of the world, of the nature around him, and live peacefully. We all think only great achievements are, we have to achieve something very great. He has that book, Happy Man. Happy is the man who is a nothing. So, very often I think parents put their children in the K school and expect them to do very well in business or in IAS, etc. But I don't think Krishnaji really bothered about such progress, that progress. He wanted a man to be a gentleman, to live happily, without conflict with his neighbors or with anybody, and to make a meaningful life. Not meaningful in the sense of earning a lot of money or something like that. Actually, somewhere he says, man of wealth has a particular type of arrogance. So he hardly cared for that. So his attempt is driving towards the creation of a good man, not a powerful man. And somewhere he says power is evil. Power of any type, anywhere, of the wife over the husband or husband over wife, or anywhere, power is evil. So it is the silent mind, it is the observant mind, a mind that observes, it achieves silence. Achieves is a wrong term. It attains silence, space and silence. Dubey sir, how much time do I have now?
You can take another 15-20 minutes if you want to.
Okay. So that is what he is aiming. So, sir, there are so many aspects of his teaching. Becoming and being. We are all becoming, we're lost in becoming. Every moment we are trying to achieve something and we are becoming and being. To my understanding, he equated the desire for survival with becoming. All of us, nobody is free from that desire for survival. That also is a type of becoming. So what is left? When all these things are, when you are free from that desire for survival, you are in that state of being. So love, life, and death, they go together. Love, life, and death. He said so many times, you keep death at a big distance, maybe after 10 years, 20 years, like that. But he wanted us, you see, actually death is not a drawing room subject. We never refer to death, even though it is an integral part of life. We cannot escape that. So, why are we afraid of death? He says it is because of your attachment to the known. Attachments of various types, your children, your wife, your property, your furniture, he says. And when you are attached to furniture, he says your furniture. This is a very powerful way of putting it. So, when attachments are not there, you meet death daily. And when you meet death daily, you have no terror of death. So, and when you are dying daily, actually he says every moment, then automatically there is a state of love in your heart. Love not simply to your family members, but generally. You are responsible to the world. And we all know his statement, you are the world. Because we are lost in our own. It is the tradition, it is a law, all these things, they produce the individual. The entire legal system is based upon the rights of the individual and the duties of the individual. Krishnaji says You share your consciousness with the humanity, human consciousness. And the tradition says you achieve your salvation. I think Krishnaji has never bothered about an individual salvation. He said, to my understanding, he says, after death, if you are free from all these attachments and, these, your greed, your ambition, and all these things, when you are free, you are out of the stream. Otherwise, there is a stream of greed, ambition, etc. going. And if you are free, you are out of that stream. Otherwise, you are part of the stream. So it is not a case of individual salvation. It is not that some XYZ achieves salvation. It is. And if you are free of all these things, maybe you will purify the waters of that stream to some extent. Even if you are not out of the stream, you may possibly purify the waters. That is my understanding, sir. And we will and about sensitivity, he says you have to be sensible. You have to be sensitive to both the ugly and the beautiful. You cannot say, you cannot pick and choose. I will close my eyes to the word, to the ugly, and I will see only the beautiful. Sensitivity means sensitivity for both. Sir, his sense of his compassion is, I want to read a small thing from about his compassion. Is not it a great sorrow that the poor man round the corner will never be clean? You understand? Never have clean clothes, never go in a jet, never ride in a comfortable car. Don't you realize all this? Is not it a sorrow to realize such a state exists? So this is the thing. You see, we keep on reading Krishnaji's books, but we are not really concerned about the facts of life. The fact of life is that so many people, he will never have soap and water. That is it. Poor man round that corner will never be clean. Never have clean clothes. Never go in a jet. Never ride in a comfortable car. That is his pity for the poor. So I wanted to bring to your notice a statement by Bertrand Russell to show the contrast between Russell, because Russell is also one of the geniuses of the world. Sir, we will show slide 11. Slide 11. Yes. Bertrand Russell, in his autobiography, wrote that 3 passions that dominated his life: search for the foundations of knowledge, unbearable pity for the suffering of mankind, unbearable pity for the suffering of mankind. That is what I read about. Krishnaji's concern for the lack of soap for the poor man. Longing for love, a love that can relieve the terrible loneliness which one shimmering consciousness looks over the rim of the world into the cold, unfathomable, lifeless abyss. So search for the foundations of knowledge. Where does Krishnaji stand there? Krishnaji, for Krishnaji, knowledge is limited. There is no point in giving too much importance to knowledge. Knowledge is limited. He is not against knowledge in the scientific realm and all that. But if a man doesn't know how to use a weapon, that is, if he uses it, a weapon for destruction, then that knowledge has no value. Our science suffers from that defect. So now, unbearable pity, that is common for both. Now come to longing for love. You see here, longing for love. Krishnaji also talks of love. But Bertrand Russell, he talks of love because he wants to be relieved of his loneliness. Krishnaji has no such problem. He has no problem of loneliness. His love is unconditional. It is not expecting any return. Without expecting any return, it is genuine love. Here, the love is motivated because it relieves you from loneliness. So, ultimately, for people like Russell, the world is not a cosmos. It is a chaos. For Krishnaji, the world is a cosmos, which means it is orderly. Whereas, for most of the scientists, etc., it is a chaos. Krishnaji could surmount the disorderliness and touch the orderly. That is the world being cosmos, in my opinion. There is harmony in the world. And in that truth and actuality, that book also, he says, actuality is orderly. There is no problem with actuality. Problem is only with the reality. Reality, in that book, reality, he uses the word to stand for your mental world, your thought processes, the psychological world. Truth, of course, is absolutely orderly. There is nothing about it. So the problem is with only human mind, with your thinking process, not with the actuality. Actuality being the state of nature. Let us place slide 12, sir. 12. Yes, this is from Wordsworth. That is the presence. And I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, in the round ocean and the living air, and the blue sky and in the mind of man, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. This is the presence. And Krishnaji's notebook testifies to this fact that he has always been in touch with this presence. That presence, one is able to touch that presence when all the disorder he is freed from all desire. And for meditation also, Krishnaji says, a disorderly mind meditating creates illusions. So, you have to establish order in the house, and then only you can have meditation. Otherwise, it is only illusions. Sir, let us play this slide 6, sir. Slide 6. Okay, let us wait here for a minute. This is from Shakespeare, Macbeth. You see, this is a play where Macbeth kills his guest, his benefactor, and his king at the instance of his wife. And the wife also participates in that murder. And she is mentally upset after the event, and she is reaping the consequence of her crime. Macbeth, how does your patient, doctor? Not so sick, my lord, as she is troubled with the thick coming fancies that keep her from rest. Macbeth, cure her of that. Canst thou not minister to a mind diseased? Pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow. Pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow. Raise out the written troubles of the brain, and with some sweet, oblivious antidote, cleanse the stuffed bosom of that perilous stuff which weighs upon her heart. This is what, doctor, therein the patient must minister to himself. For all these mental problems and deep problems, the patient has to minister to himself. So, according to Krishnaji also, each individual has to solve his own problems. He has to be a light to himself. He cannot depend upon a tradition or a guru or anybody. We know his famous statement, a guru destroys the follower and follower destroys the guru. So he has kept us out of that line. So now that can we get that 6, sir? Slide 6. I will close the Dubey sir.
No, it's okay. Perfectly all right.
Slide 6. No. About animals. Yes. This is Walt Whitman, famous American poet. He says, I can live with animals. I prefer to live with animals than with human beings. And why? Let us see that. I think I could turn and live with animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them long and long. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied. Not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Not one kneels to another, not to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one is respectable or unhappy over the whole earth. To me, Krishnaji would agree entirely with Walt Whitman. You see that they are so placid. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They don't have that self-pity. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. For their sins. Sin is a religious concept. They don't have that. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God, a God whom we have invented. Your invention, you first, Krishnaji said, you invent first and then you worship, which means you are worshipping yourself. Not one is dissatisfied. Not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Mania of owning things. That acquisitive tendency. Not one kneels to another. Yes, sir. Here he says, nobody kneels to another. So Krishnaji has that, in the workplace, the concept of status and function. He says there can be function, different hierarchy for discharging functions, but not as a matter of status. You cannot get, the boss cannot be superior to the sweeper, in the sense that they don't have, they have no difference in status, but in function, yes. The boss commands, the sweeper obeys. So here, no animal kneels to another animal. So they have no hierarchy. They have no status. Not to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Ancestor worship, living in the past. They don't do that. So for me, Krishnaji would entirely agree with Walt Whitman. He would also love to live with animals. On meditation, of course, sir, he said there is no meditation when there is a meditator. The meditator is the observer, and he is doing all that. So there is no meditation. Sorrow, fear, and death. Sorrow, fear, desire, all these things, they have their roots in thought. Dubey sir, thank you. I think I close.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Prasad sir. I think you have very precisely covered the whole spectrum of Krishnaji's teachings and placed them beautifully, bringing poetry to buttress what Krishnaji has talked about. Very well explained and very well placed. Thank you so much. One thing we must realize that, Krishna used to say that the function of his schools are not different than the function of his talks. So basically, they are the same thing. When he talked about things, about profound things in life to audiences, and when he established his schools, the purposes were same. There's no difference at all. And I think if there is one field where Krishna's contribution can be really said that, it touches the highest level, that is the field of education, because he brought something, education to life which was never done earlier. Of course, many people talked about child-centric education and so on, but he said education is not different than living. And I think you have touched just about all, including education. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Before I take comments or questions, I would request Dr. Gajanan Rao to say something. Sir, unmute yourself and say something, then we'll take Dinesh Waghmare and Harshad Bhai's comments. Unmute.
Prasad Garu, Shakti Kumar last time said, no compliments. I hope you're not in the same spirit of, I would just say this.
Thank you, sir. That's more than enough.
It's 1,000 words.
Yes.
As Dubeyji said, there was that preciseness, brevity, but you brought the whole of Krishnamurti before us, in front of us. But there is also scope for the whole teaching with the wholeness, being parts to come to our consciousness, to come to us with focus on several things, relationship, sorrow. And there is that, and you will also do that someday, I'm sure, as others do. Because he talked for 60 years, and 60 years of his whole personality unfolding, whole of his inner unfolding out. By God, what a man, and whatever he said, as you said, transformation is instantaneous thing. It is not a gradual thing, but I always felt and burdened myself, sorrowed about it. It doesn't seem to be that, although the moment that you had some insight and tells you this is this, that's okay. But to at least do some homework, to develop a mind, a quality of mind, which can come to that state of a sudden understanding and a sudden outburst or whatever. Something bursts in you. I hear Krishnaji does allow time for that, I hope. When Harshad and others speak, I don't know. But what does he mean when he said, tune yourself? What does he mean when the drum you hit, it gives a beautiful noise out? It is tuning. So you can have a bad drum, you can have a bad instrument, it has to be tuned. We all born and grow with bad quality of this sense of expressing something precise and lack of it. So not well actually. I should have been in foundation. What happened? There was a call from there. Why are you not here? I had fever yesterday. I said, I'm sorry, I'll be there tomorrow. That's why I thought I might miss Prasadji's beautiful talk today. Like he's the true teacher, sir. The way you explained, the way you brought it to the screen. I will just mention one conversation. We were all sitting in a circle, and I remember Gopalji telling him, sir, you cannot say we are traveling, we are progressing. Some words you use, not this. We may not be with you, but we are not where we all started with you. So I'm wondering what Krishna was going to say. He said, Gopalji, caught hold of her hand. Don't think of this journey like that. This is not the journey. Please don't do that. You're there or you where you are. This is very, very upsetting actually for a student. I want to get 80 marks, 90 marks, and one day get 100%. But anyway, there is deep things hidden in it. And transformation is once and for all, maybe. But a man has to come up to the level of that high understanding and an instant change. That's my opinion, maybe bad. That's about all. I won't say anything else. And I soon felt those lines of Bertrand Russell you read, they didn't contradict. You also pointed out something really, very near. But even then, longing for love is okay, Prasad. Let all of us long for love and be rid of loneliness. But it was very good, sir. I won't say anymore. When you said the silence and the mind silent that observes, I think we have a lot to learn from it. When you said wealth may mean arrogance for a lot of people, that wasn't true. And when you said last line, that you don't have a desire for survival all the time, do something, everything for that survival, you are really getting far and far away from fear and everything. And it is true, when that ceases, what am I tomorrow? When tomorrow doesn't exist, I'm very happy today. Thanks a lot, Vivekji, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, Harshad bhai, please. Then Dinesh Waghmare. Yes.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dubey. Thank you, Prasad ji. You mentioned, Prasad ji mentioned the name of Dr. Padma Madolkar, and I knew her very well. And when I was a teacher here in Rishi Valley School, she was coming to Rishi Valley, and I was inviting her to my classroom to conduct dialogue with students. And she was very good in conducting dialogue with the students, with the young students. And also she lived in Shivanand Ashram in Rishikesh. And I visited her also twice in Rishikesh. And we used to go for walks and we used to have very good dialogues. And when I moved to Sayadri School, she was coming to Sayadri School, and there also I was inviting her to my classes to have dialogues with students. About Krishnamurti's teachings, I think people who are interested in walking alone in nature, and if they are very sensitive and they have the ability to look inward, then Krishnamurti's teachings are very, very simple, and one can get very quickly what Krishnamurti is talking about. But it seems to me that only very intellectual people who were highly educated, they got attracted to Krishnamurti's teachings. And it seems to me, my opinion is that most of these people, they remain only at the intellectual level, and they really could not connect to their own daily life. And I know many people or some people who, after listening to Krishnamurti and even working in the schools, Krishnamurti schools, they were confused because I think they understood intellectually what Krishnamurti was talking, but they could not connect it with their daily life activities. And that is a tragedy. And also, I do not agree with Krishna ji also that in India, the tradition people, they are just repeating the scriptures. I feel even today, the Indian spiritual sky is full of bright stars. But of course, most people are repeating, but there have been very good individuals who can go very deep into the Upanishads, and they have a kind of a true self realization, which, and the word self, which Krishna ji uses, is about the human mind, the created by thinking. But in tradition, uh, there is this true self is something like the choiceless awareness, what Krishna ji is talking about. So Krishna ji is using different words, and the tradition has different words. Otherwise, the essence is the same. What I liked about Krishnamurti's teachings is that he is pointing out that the word is not the thing. And there is a great depth behind this statement. And like to one artist, he said, Krishnaji said, the word parrot has blocked you from looking at the thing which flies. So there is something, that real thing. If a person can observe a tree or a bird or a human being without knowledge, a pure observation, then I think a person has really got it, what Krishnamurti is talking about, a non-verbal observation of the things which are outside, as well as what is happening within our mind. And so once that awareness, choiceless awareness or intelligence is awakened, I think Krishnamurti has done his work, and such a person will not need to read anything, because the reading will go on in the life of such a person, moment by moment, looking non-verbally, and everything is very, very fresh, very, very new. Okay, so I have said enough thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bhai. Thank you. Mr. Dinesh Waghmare, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Are you able to listen to me?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I just want to share my observation. We talk a lot about tradition, but already Harshad sir has said many things about the tradition today. Tradition also had all the material available for inner development. This is what my experience is. And this is journey from dharma to spirituality. Basically, this is journey from mandir to temples to the spirituality. So mandir temples are just the starting point. The problem of repetition is also the problem of individual. It is not the problem of the tradition. Similarly, in the case of education also, repetition is a problem of individual, and that is not the problem of education. So there are, we also talk about lot of about the various parts of spirituality, but they are also having all the depths. And if we want to remain superficial, we can remain superficial, and we talk a lot about it. But if we go really into depths, they are also having the essence, and which is very interesting and which is very important, and it is also similar to what JK is saying. I only think that JK has come out with a different approach to the basic issue. And that is also very interesting, and that is to be understood at the depth. Today also, we see that we talk about Shakespeare, Walt Whitman, or William, or Bertrand Russell, and all that. If we take interest in such things, this is also tradition basically in today's time. So whatever talked about this is also tradition. If you take interest in it, we will definitely find some interesting aspect of life in this. So if we take basically how much efforts we are putting, or are we going into the depth, and we are really interested, and we are having the passion, and we go into the depth, then we will find a real essence. Thank you. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Pradeep Verma.
Yes, sir. You can hear me, sir, today?
Yes.
At least I'm back home to Indore. Thank you, Prasad sir. You have covered in many points, especially your topic today, my understanding of Krishnamurti. At least you have given an honorable place to understanding. At times we say there is nothing to understand. Just see and everything is clear. This I've heard not once, number of times. You see, so the my word is there, giving honor to the my, understanding, and Krishnamurti. So your title itself gives what is normal, natural. Then I picked up certain points out of the material you have supplied. I have been struggling to see myself in the mirror of Krishnamurti. Interesting. Don't we have our own mirror that reflects all our thoughts and actions? We are equipped with reflective consciousness. That is one thing. If I am struggling with my observations, I am probably struggling with my expectations. You see, that is what I think. Then we have our own mirror, this thing. I will quote just one small thing where beautifully JK mixes up everything. If you read these 3 lines, it is important, I think, I'm quoting JK from Art of Seeing. It is important, I think, to understand the nature and beauty of observation, of seeing. You see, so that's why he's beautifully combining all the things. At times, just to emphasize certain points, we undermine certain points, like I, self, this, that, and so many things we do, understanding there is nothing to understand. You see, then certain questions came to me out of the things I read in the PDF. Thou must be free from the poison of truth. This is somewhere it is mentioned.
From the poison of prejudice, sir, not truth. I think
Somewhere
it
is written
is
truth.
not poison of truth.
Then might have the okay. Then Krishnamurti has brought truth from the high heavens. You see, as if truth resides in high heavens only. Truth is right now when I'm talking to you. It's very much there. Then JK, we quote, you see, usually JK said so many things about transformation, timelessness, mutation in brain cells, etc. Do we quote or we understand? So these are the questions that came to me. If I'm struggling, that's right. For me, now, it's my observation. When I see something or someone, I use my own mirror neurons, naturally, either with past, that is knowledge of observed, or without past, immersing fully to be one with the observed, that is what community. When I read, I appreciate love and concern for everyone in his words. You see, word is not the thing, but this creates a harmony. This creates a harmony. That is the most important thing. You know, whether you are in harmony. Why do I read Nisargadatta? Why do I read Walt Whitman? Why do I read so many, these, though they are very close, you will find that ultimately it makes a group of people all together, Huji Krishnamurti, everyone becomes one, Dada Gawand, and all that. So this is what my observation is. Whether I came to Krishnamurti or Krishnamurti as an important person, I started as an authority, no. In my life, Krishnamurti, when he entered, how he entered, what he does to me. So that is very clear to everyone. It has to be very clear to everyone if you are alert, attentive from moment to moment. Thank you very much for giving me enough time, more than enough. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 4 minutes and we have 2 people who want to ask questions. So I would request both of you to be very, very brief. Lakshmi, Durga ji first and then Harish ji. Durga ji, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah. Sir, I don't have much to say, except lots of praises for Prasad ji. And he summarized and he encapsulated the entire teaching of Krishna ji, touching upon all the very difficult and the core topics, core subjects which related to our own life. And by bringing all those poets, that Walt Whitman, Shakespeare, and Wordsworth, yeah, you proved that, you are from the literary background and they are simply marvelous. And more than anything, sir, your poem that really, your poem written on Krishna ji, what was the best, I feel, that I had ever read in anybody's, such a, precise and, such a beautiful way you brought out the very essence of Krishna ji. So that your write-up on Krishna ji, the very first slide you had shown us, that was definitely marvelous and brilliant. And so was Walt Whitman's, the poem, the little poem which you have brought it in the end. I think that summarizes the entire teaching of Krishna ji. And actually, I also would like to say, we need to understand the basis of knowledge. Like, without understanding the basic of knowledge, we can't go beyond that also. Like you brought the poetry of all the Western poets, and the same way I feel our own spiritual texts like Upanishads and all those, and even the Gita, for example, they had so much of same resonance you find in reading Krishna ji. To understand some content of Krishna ji, whatever he's saying, we need to have this accessory understanding of also what it is all about. So I found Upanishads and the Gita are very close to what Krishna ji was saying, but we really have to apply our mind and entire being to make it sense. If it is making sense to us, then it's perfectly fine. So that's all I have to contribute, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Harish ji, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Dubey. We all know that apart from looking at the pictures in the Life magazine, which Krishnji did usually after lunch in the afternoon, the only classic that he used to read is Old Testament. And he said that it gives him immense literary pleasure. I would request Dinesh Waghmare ji to reconsider his statement that reading Butter Russell or whatever, that is also part of tradition, which means sort of distraction. Second thing, Dr. Gajanan Rao said that Krishnji said to Pupulji, Pupulji, sorry, I'm not talking about journey. Either you are there or you are, sorry to say, you are where you started with me, exactly. Personally, I think it was very, very modest of Pupulji to say that because at Rajghat, it was the year 1983 or 84, when Pupul ji, I was discussing that I'm glad that he has promoted Mithila art, the region where I come from. And Pupul ji said, Harish, can you believe? I said, and Pupul ji, you have written so many books. And he said, Harish, will you believe one thing? None of the books have emerged from here. And she said, from the mind. It has come from somewhere else. So it was really very modest of Pupul ji to say that. And just allow me just 2 minutes. Once his old classmate was visiting Raman at his ashram, and it was early days. Raman said, let us go to the pond and play our old game of, catching each other, trying to drown each other while swimming. And they were trying to grab and each other. And after they emerged from water, the friend said, Raman, I could not believe one thing. I still remember your grip. It was like iron grip. And it was so soft when you held my hand. And Raman said, ah, even the body has changed. So you see, I mean, okay, fine. We have no choice but to agree with Krishnaji. Either we are on this side or on the other side. But we can't say that change is not taking place. Yes, if we are very aggressive, very assertive in our behavior, in classical terms, if we are very rajasic, we move a step towards being sattvic. Not that we have to be concerned about such terms and do self-evaluation, which is again the trip of the ego. But yes, change is always taking place. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Hareshji. I think we have come to the Dr. Gajanan Rao. You want to say something, sir? Okay. So we have come to the end of the talk now, and next Sunday we'll have two professors, Dr. Vikas Veniwal and Dr. Amsu Chaudhary. They are both from Delhi University, and they'll be talking to us on Krishnamurti's educational vision and parenting, some reflections. So I'll request all of you, if you can spare time, please do join us. And I want to thank Prasad sir once again for being with us today. And that brought so many provoking questions. Thanks a lot. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dubey.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
to
you.
all participants. Modak, please close it.